Hey guys, welcome to Kyle's Chainsaw Rescue. Today we're going to be working on this 35cc Poulan Pro. It's the PP3516AVX. Man, they got a real long model number. Anyway, we are going to be replacing and putting these brand new gas lines on. I'm going to walk you guys through how to do that. And then we're also going to put this new carburetor on and see how the saw runs. Now this is a flip for me. I got this saw pretty darn cheap. So in the last video, I cleaned it up real quick. And then in this video, I figured, hey, you know what? Let's go through it. Now, the big reason I decided to just go through it and put all new stuff on is because this company, HIPA Parts, reached out and said, hey man, we want to start working with you. What do you need for some videos? And I said I could use a maintenance kit for this saw, and they sent it right out. Now, this is not my first time using HIPA Parts. I've used these for replacements in other saws, trimmers, mowers, and things like that in the past on my other channel. We've already used some replacement parts in another saw that we've done. And honestly, I haven't had an issue with them. Now, if you guys want to get this same kit, you can do so by looking down in the description of this video. I'll have an Amazon link right to the HIPA Parts maintenance kit. It'll be everything you see here in this video. Now, that does include a brand new carburetor, new gas lines, all of them that you need, gas filter, spark plug, and a handy dandy little wrench here to adjust that carburetor if it's needed. So you get a lot of great stuff in there. Well worth it. You guys can find that in the link down below in the description, and hopefully you'll be able to follow the steps I've got here today for you to get this saw up and running. Now, you will need a few tools, guys. So I'm also going to try to have the tools all linked down below. You are going to need either a screwdriver with different bits, or you're just going to need a Torque T25, okay? I'm using a socket wrench with a deep well 8mm extension, long needle nose kind of pliers, right? Really long pliers. I actually had to trim the stop off here because this has to go in the gas tank. Gonna need yourself a razor knife. What the heck else do we need? Might need a scrunch for your spark plug. A pan to put parts in. So enough with that. Let's get into swapping out, repairing, fixing, and rescuing this saw. Last video, all I did was a quick cleanup on this. We didn't really do any actual work. So if you're gonna go ahead and do this, there's about 1, 2, 3 screws that hold this top cover on. Gonna have to undo those. As you get around to the back here, we'll remove this cover. Here's our air filter. This one's pretty darn filthy. Once you remove that cover and you get to this point, you've got a screw in here. Got to get that out. Once that screws out, you got the 2 nuts here holding the air box on. That's your 8mm socket. Pop those guys out of there. Once those nuts are off, you can pop this forward. And when doing so, you'll see it's still hung up on the side here. So you're gonna need to take a flathead. There's a small screw holding the red on and off lever in place. Pull that screw out, pop this off. Now on the same side, you'll see this clip with your wire. You'll see this piece here with another wire. See if you can't pop that off. So those are out of the way. 2 wires out of the way. You can take this piece and you're able to see in here a little bit better. And as you can see, you'll have a cable. Throttle cable comes up and it's connected on the bottom. This will give you a little bit of play though to kind of work this over to that corner. And there's a lever over here that the cable's connected to. You gotta finagle with it and get this piece unhooked so this black piece can get right out of your way. In moving it, if your piece does what mine did, this little piece of metal here pops out. That's just part of the on and off switch. That's going to actually just fit back in over here, which we can do when we reassemble. No big deal. We're going to keep it out of the way for now though, so we don't have to worry about it falling off again. So what you really got to do is work it off backwards toward the handle. And there's your carburetor, right? It's off. In doing so, look at, lines are just snapping and breaking. Gas line broke. Gas line on the carburetor just snapped clean off. You want to look though and try to see where everything is hooked up. take some photos, take some pictures, right? Sometimes it's easier said than done, but we are focusing on our gas line, so I'm going to try to show you guys where everything goes here before we actually start replacing them. Looking at the primer bulb, it has a short neck and a long neck. Let me get the new one out so I can show you guys. In this case, the long neck is on the bottom side and connects to the line that goes to the front of the tank, okay? And the short neck is on the top side once it's installed. That piece actually goes to this short one that broke, and it feeds up to the carburetor when it's in place. So the carburetor came off this way, you spin it, and the line that's broke right here goes to the top part of the primer bulb. Now you'll be looking at the carburetor and you're like, geez, there's a whole another gas line here on the bottom right corner of the carburetor. This gas line that broke goes to this hole. At this time, we're going to get into the gas tank here. Now, another thing, not my super favorite thing here with these Poulan, sometimes these caps can be really, really tight. So we got to get that out of the way. Pull the whole cap out. Line in the filter snapped right off. So probably why this saw hasn't been running great. It hasn't even been sucking gas through a filter. The line is totally busted, so that's no good. I removed 1, 2, 3 screws that are holding the recoil on. The primer bulb sits just behind the recoil on this saw, so it won't just pop through if you're trying to undo all that. All right, so we worked that old primer bulb out. That's out of the way, off to the trash. I want to mess with this gas line in the back first. While it didn't break, I still want to get it out of there. And the best way I found to do that, these long, narrow pliers. I'll try to have all the tools linked down below as well through Amazon, guys. I want to try to get in here and pull the line into the tank, or pop out the little, there's a little nipple that goes on that line. You don't get a new one in the kit, but I tried to salvage it, so we salvaged it. It was on the line that's in there. So we're going to save that, and then this piece out of the top. It didn't break where I pulled, but look at how well you guys will be able to see it. It just broke with that little tugging, but I don't know if you guys can see all the, there's a ton of stress fractures. See all those lines right here? Lots of stress fractures in this. It's just, look at that, broke. So this is why I suggest, like, just replace the lines. If you're doing any carburetor work, just replace them, especially if they've changed color, they look brown, they're usually done, they're just shot. I have 3 lines that have to go back on, and in the kit you get 2 lines, okay, which is fine. It's more than enough. So I'm going to take my whole piece of line, and I'm not even going to cut it down yet. The only thing I'm going to cut is the end. And what I'm going to do is take the razor blade and make a slice. Oop, I cut it too short already. And make the end of the hose narrow. Show you what I mean. Kind of like that. See how I cut that off? This is what I have found to work pretty good for me. Leaving the whole length of line, cut that piece off kind of crazy. And now try to fish this and that narrow piece into the hole. Now try to fish the whole thing into that hole way up in the front corner there. It's always a lot of fun. This isn't for everybody, guys. You really gotta have the patience, the want, and have fun tinkering with this stuff, because it can get frustrating. I'm using the pliers to kind of squeeze the line and sort of push in as much as I can. So the slender piece is all inside. All right, I don't know if you guys will be able to see in there. I feel like you guys can't. Well, maybe you can. In that back corner is the line. See the line there in that back corner? a little piece. So now what we're going to do is try to grab it with our pliers and see if we can't pull it out of there. It's really tough with angles here, but we're going to take them really long, narrow pliers and start grabbing the piece that's inside the tank. Just keep working that gas line down into the tank. Keep an eye here, you don't want to pull it all the way through, okay? Ooh, cut a nice square end, get rid of that piece. Take that little nipple that was on there, put that back on the end of that line. Goes under the carburetor and comes over here and plugs into our primer bulb. So what I'm going to do is kind of feed it over here to the hole about roughly where I'm going to want it. We're going to go ahead and cut that line off. So this line is a little bit longer than I need, but that's going to be okay. This line we put in goes into the longer neck on our primer bulb. And one more line that's going to use the same size. This line is going to go to the short neck on our primer bulb. This one I'm going to match up pretty darn close to the one we removed. I'm going to actually make it probably just I don't know, probably 1/4 of an inch longer. And if I have to, we'll trim it back. 1/4 of an inch longer than the one that we removed that broke, that was on the carburetor. Throw that aside. So here's our trimmed line. This line I put on the top of the shorter neck. In this model, there's a slot right there. So the lines can go right down in and you can pop this whole thing in place. We have another line though we need to feed in. So before I do that, I want to make sure this stays mobile and just out of my way. That line went down into the tank to our filter that was broke off. What I want to do is take the smaller line, the one that was smaller around, and do what we did on the last one. Take your razor blade and narrow it down, kind of like an incision down the center of the line. Make it come to a point. The lines back in that hole is always the biggest pain, right in the butt. Here by the hole that it goes in, take your pliers, you're able to kind of squeeze it together and feed it down in. A lot of times it won't go back in if you just leave it a solid line, like it won't even start, and then you got a headache and you're getting frustrated. Start pulling it out like you did with the last one. Okay, there it is. I'm going to take this piece, straight cut, put this guy on. Gas line on that filter. What I like to do is make sure this filter is in the lowest part of the tank and laying flat. So that might mean pulling out a little more line and put your recoil on. Alright guys, we got our gas lines all swapped out. Now we're looking to put that brand new carburetor on. Here's the old one, here's the new one. Now we see this black piece on here. We're going to see if this little rubber black piece will come off the old carburetor for us. Pops right off, okay. Set the old carb, well, before you set that old carburetor aside, make sure you take your choke lever out. Fish it in this little spot right here. Come on, little choke lever. There we go. All right, boom, boom. And we're also going to take that rubber piece we just popped off, pop it on the new carburetor. We have that short line coming off the primer bulb. That's going to go right here on the left side of the carburetor. And then we have this longer line coming out of the gas tank. It's smaller, but longer. That's going to have to go on the right lower side of the carburetor. So what I want to do, kind of just mocking it up, like, okay, carburetor is going to go here. Is this line going to be long enough? I need to actually cut it one more time. It's just a rough estimate. I'm not getting super crazy on length here, okay? Now, the line can be a little difficult here to get on. Got to work that on the brass piece coming off the carb here, right? Other line on the left side goes a lot easier. It's a little bit bigger hose. Work that line underneath everything. And let's put that carburetor in place. Piece onto the carburetor, our throttle cable. When you look over here on this lever, there are 2 holes. You got to try to fish it into the top. The top hole might be tough to see on camera, but there's a top hole right here. Gonna have to finagle that thing in there. Looks like that's gonna work. On the other side with that black piece, this piece of metal fell out earlier in the video. It's kind of a Z shape. When you look here, you got some different stuff going on. It fits in there like that. This piece goes on the top of that metal V shape, which actually would probably be just easier to pop it on like that. Right, and then put this piece back in. This black piece on, push it back to where it's in place. Squeeze your trigger and make sure everything's moving. Make sure that cable's not hung up. Just like, okay, yep, looks like everything is doing what it should do, so that should all be hooked up, you know, properly. Around on the left side, we're gonna take the blue choke lever. There's a little black tab, put it on top. And then we are going to take the red lever, and we've kind of got to get it on here, okay? But you've got this metal spring piece we just put in. Might have to kind of take a flathead, carefully bend it out of the way so it is in place. Now, so that metal piece is behind here, this piece of plastic, inside there, and then this is in place. The blue is underneath, okay? And we have that screw to put back in. Got this other screw. It's black, T25. That's gonna go in the top here. Throw this air filter back on here for now. Slap our cover on. Looks like we got a Champion plug in here. See what kind of shape that's in. Bit dirty. Pop in their carburetor. The HIPAA, I say carburetor? Spark plug. What the heck am I talking about? Jeez. I know you guys are probably laughing. Carburetor? That looks like a spark plug, buddy. Yeah. That a little tighty tight. Put that guy on. Let's put the cover on. Hey guys, real quick before we head out to start this off, first time since we worked on it. If you guys like to tinker on small engines, you know, like the chainsaws, leaf blowers, trimmers, that kind of stuff, and you know, you got all these different carburetors that need all these different tools. This kit right here by HIPAA Parts, this is a must-have kit in my opinion. Comes in this great little pouch. I will have it linked through Amazon as well down below, guys, so you can get one for yourselves. But you get all these tools in this kit. All right, get some brushes for cleaning if need be, but all kinds of stuff to adjust all kinds of different carburetors. So definitely a must-have kit if you like to work on small engines, you're tinkering with your leaf blower, your trimmer, your chainsaw, whatever. I think this thing is totally worth having in your shop. And yeah, I just wanted to share it with you guys real quick. So let's put some gas in this guy, and let's head outside and fire it up. Yard, getting ready to fire up that Poulan we just did some work on. It's always a mess out here, but a little more than usual. I got to get this thing reorganized. So I'm going to start by priming it, see if we can get some fuel up in here. We already filled the tank. About 6 pumps, and it looks pretty good. Now we'll go 7. It does say push 6 times on the primer. Squeeze the trigger and pull. Oh, I gotta put this on, right? On. Pull my choke all the way out. Alright, well she runs, but it looks like I gotta go get that little screwdriver and do some adjustments. So hang on, let's see if we can get this running a little bit better. Alright, I think that's going to be it. You guys probably couldn't see because I see the camera fell. So, all I did was take that spline screwdriver and go here to the low. You see the L, and that'll be the farther side adjustment. And I turned it forward toward the nose, just a smidge, and let it idle, hit the trigger, and then you kind of see that change speed as it's idling kind of slow down. So I want it to just barely creep or not move at all. Sometimes it depends on the saw. If I have it not move at all, sometimes the saws will stall. It just kind of depends. So I usually have it where it just creeps just a little bit. And yeah, hopefully this video will help you guys get your Poulan Pro up and running great. Be sure to give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, guys. Appreciate you watching, and have an awesome day. Stay safe out there.